topic in the search for normalcy after conflict. Which comes first, justice or peace? In the search for normalcy after conflict, which comes first? Is it justice or peace? With us today in the studio, we have Mr. Hamza Hilary. He's a human rights activist. Mr. Hamza Hilary, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much. Father, I call you today the moderator. You're no longer a father because we are not in church. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
a
not
pleasure.
forgetting this time around to greet you. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala wa barakatuh.
So we equally have with us Pa John Fombe. He's a senior citizen in the Southwest region. He has a lot to tell us also as far as this topic of today's edition is concerned. Like which we said at the beginning, in the search for normalcy after conflict, which comes first, justice or peace? Mr. John Fombe, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to serve the public.
And of course, by my left, we have Mr. Bo Ivo, a human rights activist. He is a teacher and a parent too, and some other things that he will tell us in the course of the program. Mr. Bo, you're welcome.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you for accepting the invitation.
You're welcome.
Despite the rains in Boya, saying goodbye to the month of October, I'm sure. And the last on the list, we have Chief Dr. Vinicius Kum. He is a peace advocate and equally a researcher. Doctor, you're welcome and good evening.
Thank you very much, Father. Good evening, televiewers. Good evening, co-panelists. My very good friend, Mr.
Good evening,
Bo Ivo, Mr. Hamza
yeah.
Hilary. It's a pleasure to be on board with you today. And Pa Fombe, I am proud that we are sitting together on the same panel. And Father, do you know what?
No.
On the 31st day of October in the year 1517,
Yeah.
a Catholic priest, a university professor for that matter, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther, put up the 99 points on the door of the church in Wittenberg, and that launched the Reformation. Good evening, televiewers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vinicius, for a very important updates, and we get the viewers also to follow us strictly as we looked at this very important topic which concerns us as individuals, as a family, as a community, and as a country and the world at large. Like I said in the beginning, in the search for normalcy after conflict, which comes first? Is it justice or peace? We begin with Doctor. Looking at the topic of today's edition, what do you tell the viewers? To situate them so that we find all ourselves in the same train, going to always the destination that God has destined for us. What do you tell them?
Yes, Father, as a researcher, when one comes to the public, one has to do everything possible that those you are talking with or talking to should be abreast, they should be acquainted. Then the most suitable point for us is to start with the definitions. What do we mean by conflict? What do we mean by peace? What is justice? What is normalcy?
Yeah.
Can I begin?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're very free.
Let's start with justice. We say justice is a principle. It is a practice. The principle of doing things in such a way that everybody gets satisfied. Giving everybody what his or her due is. Now, you may want to ask that what are the types of justice? Principally, there are two types of justice. General justice and particular justice. Now, when you go to particular justice, you see that there are four subtypes of particular justice. You have distributive justice. We are 5 on the panel. We have 50 minutes. How do we distribute?
It's 50 minutes, yeah.
Do you give it equally? Do you say, since you are the moderator, we should give you 20 and then we share the rest? The next is procedural justice. How do you apply that justice? What rules do you use? Do we go by equality or equity? Then thirdly, we have retributive justice. If you have done something wrong, if you have caused a problem, you should be punished. And lastly, we have restorative justice. This one, if you have taken away my goat and we are fighting, you have to give back my goat. You have to restore what you have taken away or what has been destroyed. I think that is virtually the meaning of justice,
Justice,
and
yeah.
the types of justice.
Then we get on the other side, or Mr. Hamza may help you while you put other things together and looking after a good definition as far as justice is concerned. Since we are looking at justice and peace, what is peace in this particular
Thank you
case?
very much, Father. I think
We may link that also with Islam. I'm sure they say most of the times, even in the greetings, there's peace there. If I'm not making
and
a
that's
mistake.
why you hear
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. That's
Yeah.
peace be upon you, and you will respond, and also with you.
Yes, thank you
I
very
think when we talk about peace, in a very simple term, peace means the love of God.
Yeah.
And we have different types of peace. We have psychological peace, we have a relational peace, and we have equally spiritual peace. The psychological peace, we are talking about the peace of comfort, for which you know that at least you are at peace. Then we have the relational peace, which is talking about harmony, like he just mentioned about the issue of justice. When there's harmony amongst family, then we know that at least peace is in that home. And then the last one, which is the spiritual peace, this is peace between man and God. For instance, if we think that today we are talking about peace and justice, which you understand that both are interrelated. And so when you are not in peace, you are not with peace, then you understand that justice needs to follow as well. So in the course of what we are talking about, we are talking today about peace and justice. And I think that with peace, as per these three components, it means that we have to see the relationship between man and God.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Hamza. I'm sure Mr. Bo, looking at, we've had the definition. So we got the definition of justice, we got the definition of peace, and there is conflict in the middle, you know, because all these two things, when they put together, they come as a result of, you know, when there is conflict, we always want to see if what will come first, which is like a kind of something maybe to calm it down. Is it justice or is it peace? So what is conflict all about?
Conflict come as a result of disagreement.
Yeah.
It can be within the family, it can be within a community, it can be within a nation. And when there is this disagreement, it can, which may result to either clash of ideas, it can also result to quarrels, or it can result to war. Yeah, so that is actually conflict.
Yeah, thank you very much. Since Doctor is here, Doctor, I think maybe there are some stages, since we're talking of conflict, before we get to maybe the real things themselves. I'm sure maybe after looking at these three definitions, we have justice, we have peace, we have conflict. What is normalcy in the course of this program of today's edition?
Yes, normalcy in this sense simply refers to coming back to the situation in which everybody was in harmony.
Yeah. So not being political somehow. How can we relate this with the situation in Cameroon, for example, maybe before 2016 and then now? How do we find ourselves? How do we fit this into the shoes of something that is happening in our country at the present moment?
Yes, before 2016, that's just an aside,
Yeah.
because I don't think we are actually here to talk about.
Yeah, we're just trying
very
to link.
specific.
Yeah.
We want to give a general overview.
Of it. Yeah, we're just looking at the kind of
situations at
example.
home.
Yes, maybe at home or maybe
So
in
we
schools.
said before that time,
Yeah.
things were at a certain level in which people were satisfied or dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Certain things were not happening. And now after that year, certain things started happening. People started running up and down. And now when we talk of normalcy, it means coming back to that situation whereby people will stop running away, people will stop sleeping with their eyes open,
Yeah.
and all of
And
that.
Mondays will be as normal like used to be in the 80s and the 70s.
That is
Okay, we get that. Okay, thank you very much for that set. And then we get to platform B. Just looking at the topic of today's program. What do you have to say after looking at the definition of justice, peace, conflict, and normalcy?
Well, I've examined the situation and I don't have the theories behind it. I've watched the world.
Yeah.
And I seem to see that most people define peace or as the absence of war.
Yeah.
Most people see justice as vengeance. He defined it. I think, was it retributive, or when somebody does something wrong, you give it back to him. But I also agree with him that for me, most of the peace we talk about has to do with the spirit. It doesn't have to do with the laws that we make, because justice seems to me to refer to how we interpret the laws that we make. And what is peace? Even in our own church, the Catholic Church, in the good old days, I think the mass always ended with
go forth or go in peace.
Yes,
they have the various options. The mass is ended.
Yes, Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum.
Yeah.
Yes. Then it ends. So these days it ends with go in
peace. The mass is ended. They have four options, so you can take any of them.
Go in peace, which I think it should have been made, go into peace. That's when you live. Go and live a peaceful life. And we were prescribed peace by in the Beatitudes. Blessed
are the peacemakers. They are sons and daughters of God. Yeah.
Then, in line with that, there is meekness. Yeah. Because if you are meek, there will be no conflict, because a meek person is that person who accepts adversities that come to him without fighting back. So I seem to think that peace has to do with our relationship with each other, how we react to the situations that are imposed on us that would call us to react violently. So we should keep violence aside. And above all, we should know that, I'm sure the lawyers will keep saying that, well, peace has to do with fairness. I don't think that, justice has to do with fairness. Justice seems to me to depend on laws, and these laws are man-made. But the laws that control our spirits is such that it's an internal feeling. It's not something that can be decreed from the courts or from the laws that we make. So I have of the opinion that what I've examined the world, I think that what I look about is what I see people seeing peace or seeing justice. They see it as vengeance, and vengeance should belong to God, not to man. So it has to do with judgment. It doesn't have to do with the inner satisfaction that people have. Then secondly, which comes first? There's no possibility of having peace without justice. Once there is no justice, the way we see it as, once you take away my thing and I cannot get it back the way it belongs to me, there could be no peace. So the first thing that we should emphasize is justice.
Okay, thank you very much, Pafombe. Since Doctor is here, Doctor, we please start kindly just tell maybe the public, our viewers, our very special friends of Mountain Echoes, the connection, therefore, between peace and justice, so that helps us as we go along.
The connection between justice and peace, in fact, the two are two sides of the same coin. Justice is a practice. Justice is something you do. It's a way of behaving. Peace is a situation. Peace is a state of being. So justice and peace are connected. One leads to the other. But for me, I just said justice leads to peace. But I'm here to say peace leads to justice. So justice sustains peace.
So looking at the situation or the scenario, going back to the Bible, where Jesus, when the Pharisees came and they brought this whole thing, they wanted to try to get maybe his own views about this whole thing of those who pay money to Caesar or taxes to Caesar and the rest, and he asked them for a coin, and he was saying that give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. After he has demanded that whose face is on this, they say Caesar's on the other side. So he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. How do we maybe bring out that with what we're treating today, looking at justice and peace? What do you think? Where was he going to?
That is why we say one of the types of justice is restorative justice. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. He was talking about restoring, giving to the person his due. I think it falls in line with what we are saying today.
Okay, therefore, so what or maybe Mr. Hamza comes in here, what is the link therefore between conflict now and peace. He spoke much about peace. What's the link between conflict and peace? Because these are three terms or terminologies that we need to put them. We see how we harness them, and then we get maybe a way forward, or maybe a kind of a good foundation.
I think we are here to discuss the relationship between peace and justice.
Yeah.
And I want to maybe situate ourselves within the context for which we are discussing, and for which we are discussing on the issue of crisis.
Crisis, yeah.
Because the peace and the justice will now come to see how to resolve the crisis.
Yeah.
I want to say that pursuing both peace and justice are very crucial in terms of ensuring that the long-term stability and preventing a kind of recurrence. Because if we don't work like people of God, it means that probably we should be putting the whole state in chaos. And now for this issue for the prioritization of the peace, it allows an affected community to regain a sense of safety and normalcy, for which stability will equally be enforced. Now, when you look at the issue of justice within a certain country, you realize that justice are bought. Justice is on sale. But when you look at that particular instance, you realize now that the people in that country, they don't longer believe, they don't longer find themselves protected in terms of justice. But again, when you come again on the spiritual side, like as I said, because within the peace part of it, you now realize that it is now focused within the men of God who are responsible to ensure that peace, while you have peace at home, you have peace everywhere. But whereas in a situation wherein the people no longer believe in their spiritual leaders, it means that there can be no peace. But we want to look at it within the context of personalizing that you, as a human being created in God's image, you are bound to be a peaceful person. So in the course of you maybe advocating for peace, don't look at justice, because justice is what is being established for us to do. But then you were born as a human being and there was peace in you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bo. I'm sure maybe you have one or two things to say related to that too. What do you have to say about that, with these terminologies that we've been struggling to see how we could explain or maybe give proper definition so that we have a good follow-up?
Yeah, thank you for that. What I just see is that when I ask about situation of conflict, conflict comes as a result of mostly when there is injustice. And when there is injustice, there is, when it relates to, let's say, two individuals or two communities or two countries, then there is bound to be chaos. We can, if you be within the same personality, somebody can also have be in conflicting with his or her own self. Conflict can also be with one's own self. And now, with the situation, looking at it, linking with justice and peace, the terrible thing I've seen while reflecting is that sometimes people think justice will bring peace, and others think that peace can bring justice. And then I've really seen that the whole world had sat down to see how they can prevent war during the early years. I've heard about situation of a statesman who sat down in the Treaty of Versailles to come out with modalities, forming the League of Nations, which was Wilson's 14th point. They come out with a world organization to prevent future peace, and which was the League of Nations. And to prevent future war, it finally did not prevent the war. They came out the UNO, in 1945, also to prevent war. Still, further, it is very interesting that we were born and we grew up. We have been hearing about wars since we grew up, and it does not stop. So the world actually has a big problem. I go back to what Christ said, peace I give you and my peace I leave unto you. So he is instilling it in line with what Doctor says. The greatest, because if you want to look detailedly, there can be no absolute peace and absolute justice. You know, it can have partially absolute peace only or absolute justice, but you cannot have both. Absolute justice and peace. It cannot have both.
On earth.
No.
So it is by definition.
Yes, cannot.
Oh, okay. Maybe doctor will help us here. Looking at issues when people are fighting, do you solve the problem of for fighting to end, or you stop the fighting before solving the problem?
Very good question, Father. Let us look at it this way. That we say justice is a practice. Justice is administered.
Yeah.
Okay. When people are fighting, is it possible when we are still shooting the guns, boom, 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 is it possible to administer justice while fighting is going on? When fighting is going on, is it possible to go to the court to look at somebody who caused the war and punish him while fighting is going on? It cannot happen like that.
No.
That's why we say, when there is a conflict, let us stop the conflict. That is why when there were wars, when there is war and the belligerents are desiring for peace, they call for a ceasefire. Ceasefire means that let us stop fighting, and as the fighting has stopped at that moment, the underground movements are made, private negotiations to see whether, if what Mr. Hamza will say, whether I will accept. If you don't accept, fighting continues. But ceasefire is different from a truce. Truce means that we are going to stop fighting on Christmas Day. Christmas Day, my opponent is Pa Fombe. Christmas Day, I leave my camp, I go to his camp, we drink tea. That is a truce. After Christmas Day, fighting continues. So this means that if there is war, we have to stop the war. That is peace.
Yeah.
In that case, it is negative peace. Negative peace means that the war has stopped, but there are still dissatisfactions. Now, when we have stopped fighting, we have the negative peace, and we discuss. If the discussions are not satisfactory, the satisfaction comes in when justice is applied. That your car was burned down, your car was destroyed, we'll pay it back. That you did this, we'll do this to you. If you are satisfied now, it leads to positive peace, which means that we have conflict, we have negative peace, we have justice, we have positive peace. So that's why I stand to say that when there is conflict, if we want to establish normalcy, there should be some peace. We should stop the fighting. When we stop the fighting now, we now implement justice. So that if you are not satisfied with the justice, the fighting continues. That is my take.
Yes, sir. Maybe Mr. Hamza has something to say before.
I may want to corroborate a little with Doctor, but I may differ with him in a certain instance.
Yeah.
For instance, when we are talking about peace, there can be no peace without justice. And to an extent, we should consider that peace without justice can be very fragile. So in this case, we are looking at the issue of where they may not be sustainable. So we are looking at the sustainability between the peace and the justice. Like I said earlier, I said they are interconnected. There's just no way we can talk about peace without justice. So let's not look at it as maybe one is dominant to the other. It is something that are interrelated.
Yeah.
It means that if we have a mediator who is coming to talk about peace, he will certainly talking about justice. Because we certainly know in a crisis environment, you now start looking at the root cause. When you discover the root cause, you now see who are those to be penalized. The perpetrators must be brought to book. So I think
that's vengeance.
From
this sense,
it may not be vengeance.
Yeah, relating to is actually just echo to what is in my mind. When we talk about perpetrators there, and then I go back to the situations of Germany that caused the First World War, and they stood at Versailles to nail Germany on the cross. You know, reducing the army, saying that they will not have submarines. They have to pay £6.6 million and so on. when Hitler came up in 1933, Germany was actually very bitter about it. So Hitler came, the Second World War came as a result of Hitler wanted to do what? One of the reasons he wanted to abrogate, to cancel all the decisions that he made available. So sometimes when we talk about aspect of justice, it can also be very disastrous. It can be very disastrous. So I buy what doctor is saying. You know, when we talk about situation, if we say that justice has to go to maintain peace, then there will be problem.
Well, I think that without justice, there can be no peace. It is not peace that leads to justice. I mean, a dead man has no problem. So it is the action of people, judgments that we pass. I see justice as deriving from judgment. You judge people and say, hey, you are wrong. Since you are wrong, we will punish you, or we will, I don't know. Of course, it always ends with punish you, always ends with violence.
Let me just find out,
yeah.
Has all the justice that we applied in the world, has it stopped the wars that are going on?
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, that you're talking of judgments, not so?
Yeah, we'll talk about implementation of justice.
Yeah, the first thing is you prevent the conflict, because we have assumed that there is a conflict situation.
Yeah.
The first thing to do is to prevent the conflict. How do you prevent it?
Yeah.
By making peace? No, you prevent it by being fair. I mean, let me use the word fair. By being fair to people. I didn't hear social justice here. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert in that one. By being fair to people. Let one man not own all the wealth. If you own all the wealth, I won't feel happy. There are people who own all the wealth. That's social injustice. So this is what leads to conflict. When I see that you have and I don't have, and I think I ought to have. So the first thing I think is, first of all, fairness. I don't know whether the law legislates fairness. No. They make laws. Let me tell you.
It's equity.
Equity or equality?
Yes, equity and equality.
This thing, we keep on hammering that when a man does something, he should be paid back in the coin. He should be paid back in the coins that he served. When Cain murdered Abel, what did God do? He put a sign on Cain that anybody who kills Cain will get God's vengeance. So I think that the solution to offenses are not punishments, because when you punish, like you say, you punish Germany, they get more and more. Why? So we must look for the way to prevent conflict, because when we prevent the conflict, there will be no question of, because all what we are talking here is how to stop wars and how to stop fighting. Why not prevent the fighting? How will you prevent it?
And come back to normalcy.
Yeah, is it by peace? No, you prevent it. They say in common language that prevention is
better than cure.
So stop.
Okay, let's just look at this. This is what Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilman, they said they developed 5 conflict resolution strategies that people use to handle conflict. They said including avoiding, defeating, compromising, accommodating, and collaborating. When they put these things together, he believes that maybe he may assist. What do we think about that as related, maybe as a kind of relation to our topic of today?
Yeah, I think the first thing is not conflict resolution. It should be conflict prevention. So when we do, I think I agree with entirely with what he says. We should be looking at ways to preserve peace. Yes, and one way of preserving peace is justice. We are only limiting ourselves here.
In another instance,
let me just finish this. Yeah, because it's wider now. About 3 or 4 days, I think on Thursday or so. Today is what? Last week. There's a conflict that I want to avoid because we don't want to look bad, between Israel and
the Hamas in Gaza.
Yes. They went to the United Nations and said, let's stop this thing. America vetoed it. That, no, let's not stop this war. Let's continue fighting. Yeah, let's continue fighting. 120 people said, no, let's stop and negotiate. America and Israel and some many countries, they didn't vote. They said, 14 people said, no, let's continue fighting.
Yeah.
that's not the promotion of the peace we are looking for. If we were looking for peace, they will stop it. 45 countries abstained. They didn't care whether the war continued, whether people are dying or not. They wanted the war situation to continue. So, whereas normal fairness think that we should sit down and see how we can resolve this conflict before thinking of killing one another. And everywhere I've heard of the just war. That's another contradiction in terms. I don't see how a war can be just.
It can be.
Pardon?
It can be.
Well, it can be. Yeah, I'm sorry.
all
My
depends on
church,
the context.
in the context that you have. In what context?
No, see,
War is the absence of peace.
Peace, yeah.
And how could you be taking a just war that let us break the peace? Because a just war means break the peace. I know in the Catholic Church we believe in the concept of the just war, in that it must be waged by some authority. The person who wages the war must have authority to wage wars. Yes, that's what the basic principles of a just war is. But a war is the contrast, is the opposite of peace. So I don't see how we can have a just war.
how can you find a situation? Look at the situation of Israel and Gaza now. Not actually Gaza, the Hamas in Gaza.
Yes.
Now, Hamas is one of the institutions, the terrorist group like Boko Haram, ISIS, and so on.
Like Nelson Mandela was.
Fine. Now, you'll find that for many years,
Yes.
the Hamas has been a threat to Israel.
Yeah.
And recently, they got into Israel. Israel was sitting quietly, folding their arms. They shot missiles, close to 700 and something missiles into Israel, got Israelites, and they are almost close to 200 and something, which they are in captive. And you ask that you stop and negotiate with the terrorist group. It doesn't make sense.
Continue.
It doesn't make sense. So we find a situation in there that these people stand, I think it was not up to 10 years ago, that this very situation occurred.
2014.
Yes, they sat down and they were able to dialogue.
Good.
Then it stood a little bit. It's not long
Because there was no justice in it.
Justice in what way?
The-
You carry on justice with the terrorists. No.
Excuse me, Father.
Yes, we're coming back. Yeah.
I'm afraid
We are going out of that. Yes.
diverting.
Yes. We need to handle this in our context.
When there is conflict, it means that we have already surpassed the stage of prevention.
Prevention, of course.
We are
Yeah.
either moving to conflict management or conflict resolution.
Yeah.
So let's keep conflict prevention at this stage
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah. Of
We have
course.
talked about approaches to resolution and management,
Yeah.
but we are here to establish that when there is that conflict that is going on in Israel, between Israel and Palestine, for the two countries to come back to normalcy,
Yeah.
what should come first?
First. So justice. peace.
Should they stop fighting? That is, should we have peace first, and then they see to solve the problem, or they should keep on fighting? They should keep on fighting while solving the problem. Is it possible to solve the problem while you are still fighting? If you are to administer the justice in court, I ask the question that can you go to court when the missiles are flying over the courtroom? Then that is the issue. And I try to establish that it is the rule should be that when there is conflict, those fighting should stop. When we have stopped, it means that there is some sort of peace. Peace has come. It is when there is peace that we now sit on the table to say, please, you did this wrong, correct it. That is justice now. This is peace here. We are sitting because there is peace. Even though, as you said, it is Mr. Hamza used the word, it is not permanent. It is just some form of negative peace. There is some level of peace. People are still dissatisfied, but it is in the course of discussing, is a course of administering this justice that everything will come back to normal. I think that's how I think we should look at it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Doctor, I earlier said, let's look at it within this little concept that peace without justice is very fragile and is unsustainable. So if we are talking about peace, for instance, we are here like God's creatures. You are a Christian, I'm a Muslim. We may have diverse way of reasoning. But if justice come and say no matter what, we serve the same God, and so that God must be respected. These are the laws that governs you and I. What is the problem all about? Then they start looking at the source of the problem between you and I.
Very good. Is it possible to look at the problem while we are still fighting?
There are people who are perfect.
Yeah,
there are people who are the sole management to that particular crisis between you and myself, and that is where justice come in. I had wanted to look at the issue of peace, but like I said there can be no peace without justice, and when it goes, it is very fragile and it's unsustainable if it is not well tackled.
It means that you are not hearing what I'm saying.
No, I got you very well.
Let me repeat. I've said that. We are fighting because something went wrong.
Yeah.
We are the people fighting.
Yes.
This is you and I fighting. There's no other person.
Absolutely.
And then they say, you say, I say, let us stop fighting and solve the problem. When we stop fighting, that is peace. Solving the problem now is bringing justice.
To see who was at the wrong.
To see who was wrong.
And what do you do with the wrong person?
You do what you do wrong. You correct.
And that's the justice.
You correct. What has come first? You stop fighting first before you.
Do you just wake up and then you just decide to stop fighting? Somebody should come in between to let us know that we have to stop the fighting.
Very good. When the person comes in, the mediator, when he comes, are you saying that somebody should be mediating?
It should be the arbiter.
No, mediating between us when we are still fighting.
But that obviously,
No, it is not possible.
you and I cannot decide.
It is not
You
possible.
and I am at grief. You are equally at grief. We look at it within the context of certain violations that have been perpetrated by either you or myself. You think when you kill my children, and then I'll just sit quiet and then wait for you to say peace should reign?
No,
there should be justice.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, we are talking about peace here.
How do you administer how do you
crisis.
implement the justice? Do you implement justice when they are still fighting? That's my problem. We have to stop fighting.
What
for us
causes
to
the fighting?
excuse me. What caused the fighting? That is what we'll discuss.
It's injustice that causes.
Yes, that is what we will discuss when we have stopped the fighting. We can only do that when we have stopped the. Let me give an example.
Yeah.
Let me go out of the country.
Yeah.
When the first World War started, when it started, it had to end. It had to end for that justice to be implemented. The people did not implement the justice when the war was going on. It had to stop.
I think, Doc, maybe.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
That is why I said there are two main types of peace. Negative peace. When we now sit on the table, you are still boiling. I'm also boiling. That's negative peace. Now, when the problem is solved, the justice, now we have positive peace. That positive peace is now sustainable. So this means that just a peace, small peace, justice, and then
bigger peace.
Bigger peace.
Anyway, like we said, in the search for normalcy after conflict, which comes first, is it justice or peace? There is that the statement shows, or maybe the topic presupposes that the two are all needed as far as maybe looking for maybe a normalcy, sustainable normalcy at a period of time or some kind of maybe in a situation in the country. So but which comes first? We need to play with these words time and again. So just maybe I was just thinking aloud. Is it that we'll get back to Doctor? Is it that we have failed to some extent? I'm looking at the situation of our own country as far as this, bringing these two terminologies together. Is it that we have failed to use them? That's why we are still looking for the peace in our own situation.
We have failed to some extent. The reason being that there is a lot of disunity.
But we have all this. We have all this. We have is it commissions and the rest for justice, for peace, and the rest.
If there are two groups.
Yeah.
Government on one side.
Yes, and the separatists on the other side.
On the other side. If the separatists had one leader, if they had one leader, I think certain things would have changed. But now the separatists are as divided,
separated,
as there are villages. And then if you go to the government bench, there is some unity, but how do you do with the other side? Today you hear this group is saying this, tomorrow you hear that the other group is saying this. So I think that we are fair to an extent, and for the reasons that I've given, that there is a lot of division within the ranks.
Yes, we like we said, this it begins from the individuals back in our families. In every family that you have, maybe they said there's this technology in Pidgin saying I roof the cover house. We have all those difficulties. We have our little conflicts. We have our little grievances and misunderstanding and the race. And we are saying, even back there in our families, back there in our churches, we have all these things. Which comes first? You know, that is either justice or peace and the rest. And the bigger side of it, when looking at the topic of today's edition, everybody, you know, their minds will not really take us more back to our families, though those things don't happen there, or maybe in our colleges, or maybe in our churches and the rest. People think of maybe something larger to see, because they have not been in a good state for years now, and everybody is like, you know, looking up to this peace, looking up to this justice. How do we arrive at these two things? Who is to play the role of Mr. Justice, and who is to play the role of Mr. Peace? How can they manage this in our own situation?
You remember the last time I was here, we were talking with some other clergies. I came in that panel as a human rights activist.
Yeah.
And we were like castigating blames on the clergies for not doing their job as clergymen. Now, it will interest you to know that peace is the foundation, while justice provided the necessary mechanism for the aggrieved parties. That which we need to be very, very, very meticulous, because in as much as the justice is coming to appease the aggrieved parties, it means that we are looking for an equitable and a just society. The clergy, like I will still say it here without any fear of controversy, that they missed the track. It's like they tend to be more political than protecting their own followers, because they are considered as the God on earth, for which, when we look at an aggrieved party, you as a clergy, you are coming as a neutral person to tell who is wrong or who is right. In this light, Doctor was making an allusion on a certain issue.
Just take this further. What do you mean by aggrieved?
Like, for instance,
somebody is hurt.
Somebody is hurt.
Yeah. So don't you think that at the root cause of it is that somebody feels
the injustice was already established, and so that's why I'm saying that in the course of arbitrating, because the government equally failed, because the clergy had a memoranda to look into the situation between the Southern Cameroon and the state of Cameroon, as they call it, the La République du Cameroun. And if they had maybe gone into the root cause properly, they would now know how to address the situation. And we had technocrats and intellectuals within the ranks and files of the clergies. But they failed. I'm still saying that they failed because they could not listen to the aggrieved party. And like Doctor said, that today they are factions. So who are they going to listen to? We know that one person who stands as the leader to the other party is still in jail. The other parties that are coming, or the other factions that are coming, they are just cosmetic. And for which, if the government or the clergy took interest of their population That's the Northwest and the Southwest. They would have seen that, okay, fine, let's bring these people on the table and see what to do. What do they want again? Should they go to US or to England or to wherever to bring those who are claiming or purporting themselves to be the leaders? I don't think it is proper. We have to look into the situation as it is, stricto sensu.
Father,
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Hamza.
I
Yeah.
am very happy with Pa Fombe and Mr. Hamza. Now I've understood them. Pa Fombe, we earlier mentioned that let us keep prevention aside. Let's come back to it. I'm sorry for that. Now, to prevent conflict, there must be justice.
Okay, now we agree.
Yes. To prevent conflict,
Conflicts, yeah.
there must be justice. That justice must lead to peace. But once there is war, once there is conflict,
We must stop.
So the stages,
You must
so we're
stop
talking
it.
about conflict, they have
must
particularly
stop
they have
it.
the stages that we
And
go.
then-
Agreed now.
and Mr. Hamza, right?
No, you're absolutely correct. You're
Once there
absolutely
is
correct, Doctor.
conflict, we must have some peace. Then we go to justice, so that the peace should be sustainable. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bo. I think maybe you have one or two things to add on that.
Yeah, Doctor just actually echoed what I was reflecting on, because I was just thinking aloud within me that if you ask the question to justice and peace, which comes first, it's like asking that between the egg and the chick, which one comes first, you know. And sometimes we look at situation of justice that has to do with killing of millions of people is no justice, you know. So it is, the applicability comes depending on the situation. Either peace sometimes comes first, it depends, and sometimes justice comes first. So but both, you know, as I said earlier, absolute justice and peace at the same time is very difficult.
Can someone maybe draw a conclusion that maybe there are two roads leading to the same place?
Yes.
Doctor,
Yes.
what do you think
Yes,
about
that's
that?
why we
Yes.
said
Yes.
To me,
justice
they are
and
two different
peace
things.
are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Yes, but apart from that, has some maybe another view.
yeah.
Are there not two roads leading to maybe the same destination?
No, there are two different things. Like he said, and I think I agree with him. And we say it in the church, when we are leaving the church, they say go in peace. When we were in church, we were at conflict. so
We are exhorted to go out there to be peacemakers, to be
so-
advocate of peace, ambassadors
there's
of peace.
something a lot more than we are escaping.
Yeah.
Peace. When you die, they say rest in peace.
Peace, yeah.
So people should stop worrying you. You go. I don't know whether that is the meaning of it, but peace can only be defined in the in my own opinion, in the terms of absence of justice.
Okay.
Yes, because he said it is true. It is the application. Justice is how you apply laws. The application of the laws is a system for applying laws, and quite often I see justice the way, at least the justice system that we have created for our societies, both in Africa, in Europe, and in America, is how are we going to deal with this guy who committed these sins? We're going to punish him. To me, that is what I call vengeance. So the greatest thing that we need to be peaceful is to go to the root of the matter. What is causing the aggrieved party? It is not the opposite of aggrieved is what? Because if there's aggrieved, there's an aggressor.
That's
The man who is
synonymous.
not aggrieved is who?
Is angry. The man who's not aggrieved is a happy person.
Yeah, he is the person who is disturbing the peace of the other person. So find out why this aggrieved person is aggrieved, and then stop.
Apart from that,
Yeah,
sometimes peace cannot be just the absence of war.
this
Sometimes,
is exactly what I'm saying.
okay, because sometimes it can be due to fear. Let me explain.
That's a negative peace we were talking about.
It can be due to fear. Russia, China, that's what they'll be applying mostly. You look at a smaller nation and then you find a greater nation, you know that they inflict pain on you. And you're talking about if you go to UN, definitely have to veto it. Now what happens? The other smaller nation, what happens? It just stays quiet. Not that it's happy, but it decides to keep quiet. So sometimes peace can come as a result of fear.
that won't be peace. Because if you are facing injustice, you're still experiencing injustice. You won't tell me that that is peace. This is why I'm still insisting that if I feel that I've been treated unjustly, I will not be at peace. Any society that feels that has been unjustly treated will not have peace.
The conflict within you, now who solves it?
You.
Fine.
You have to solve your conflict.
So sometimes I can be in conflict with myself and I decide to stay mute.
Good. That's what Christ preached now.
So doctor, how do you bring in a peace of mind in this situation?
I think, coming back to that further,
Yeah.
we say, even though we say there is spiritual peace, there is positive peace, there is negative peace, there are other forms of peace.
Yeah.
Like the peace within the person,
Yeah.
that is peace of mind.
Yeah.
There's peace within the family, domestic peace.
Domestic peace, yeah.
There's a peace in the society, social
peace, which was
There's world peace.
yeah.
I think it would be erroneous for us to say justice is synonymous to vengeance. Justice is not vengeance. Justice is not vengeance. Let me explain. Let us say somebody comes here and burns down your car, and you look for his own car and burn it down. That is vengeance. It's not
yeah.
justice.
An eye for an eye.
That is not justice. That is vengeance. That's not justice, because the law will punish you of you. The law will punish you of you. Justice, as I said, justice means to distribute things fairly, equally, equitably.
Does that include pain?
Excuse me.
Distribute pain fairly, equally.
Excuse me. You are distributing the things that God has created, not the things of the devil, because as far as I know, pain comes with it. Distributing what God has given.
Yeah.
That is distributive justice. Let us say, in that case, we talk about equality, equity. Equity means that we are 5 of us and there are 10 loaves of bread.
We
We have two.
We share it equally.
If we share 2, it is equality. But if I eat 2, I'll not be satisfied. This man can eat just 1, he'll be satisfied. So he takes his 1, I take my 3. Everybody is satisfied. Even though I've taken 3, that is equity.
Equity, yeah. It's not equal, but
Then
you
we
are
go now
satisfied.
to retributive
Retributive
justice.
justice.
That is to punish. Since you have burned down my car, we will not burn your car, but we'll punish you. The punishment is that you either go to prison for burning down my car. It's not vengeance.
No, it's to inflict pain on you.
It is
now.
to correct you. And
But
last,
the
and then we
inflict-
also have the other one is restorative
Restorative
justice.
justice.
To restore. Since you have burned my
Restoration
car,
Commission.
either you pay back the car, you restore what you have destroyed. So justice is not just, it's not vengeance.
Yes, doctor. I'm sure we have. We thank you very much for all the contributions, but I think maybe leaving this place will be unfair if we've not maybe said little things concerning what we're facing today. Mr. Hamza, you agree with me? We've been hearing about the Restoration Commission and some other kind of things, justice and peace, and things we've been maybe having this difficulty in our country. We know that our next door neighbor down there we have in Congo Democratic, we have problems there too. In Gabon, I'm sure maybe something there, and the famous Central African Republic, it has been there, and it seems as if maybe they have forgotten about them. They have all those things. At the end of the day, bringing maybe the Restoration Commission, all these things, putting them in order. How can we maybe add or maybe play with this, or maybe to assist these persons using these terminologies of today, like the justice and the peace, which will help them to ensure that maybe we get back to this normalcy in our own country in particular, and our families, maybe our families also too.
Further, striking the balance between the two requires careful consideration. And this consideration must come with recognition. And when we do the recognition, it should be on a very specific circumstances, like you were saying, looking at the issue of the other side of the world or the other side of the country. I want to think that there should be some commission in charge of the follow-up monitoring and seeing that some preemptive measures need to be taken or need to be in place. Because if we continue like this, we don't know where the world is going to. Take, for instance, Cameroon was named the best peaceful country in Africa and even in the world. But with a twinkle of an eye, something came up. Me, I am sorry to say it in the platform here, that I detest the white man's policy and this concept. I don't abide with them in any form. And so we as Africans, we have been considered as second-class citizens in the world. We should think, we should have a rethink on how to manage our society and move without any discrepancy, without any prejudice. But if we don't think that because I don't like doctor, I don't believe in the concept of the principles of what doctor is preaching, I think I should go my own way. If we think that what doctor is preaching is not good for you, do your own that you think will be good and for the interest of the society. Not me detesting doctor to an extent of looking forward to beat or fight or kill doctor. That would not help the society. Because like we said, peace begins with you. Justice is just an established law that we have to go into. But if there is no peace, there can be no justice. If there is no justice, there can be no peace. So we think like what Honorable Weber said. Those is the quotation, the word he made. I hold it steadfast. When injustice becomes the law, resistance becomes the duty. We should not look at that. We should look at the society in which we are. Make it peaceful so that the justice will prevail. Let there be injustice or let there be justice for those who need the justice, or those who are liable to whatever crime they committed, not for you and I that we want to look peace, or we are advocating for peace.
Yeah, Doctor?
Yes, Father, you raised an issue, and I thank God Mr. Hamza has shed some light.
Yeah.
Let me corroborate by taking us out to South Africa, where there was conflict, racism manifesting in the form of apartheid, and the worst things happened. In Rwanda, where there was a genocide in which within 100 days in 1994, 100,000 people had been killed. Now, when those things ended, what happened in South Africa? There was a commission to reconcile, in which people were brought. Desmond Tutu, Archbishop was the chairperson. People were brought and they openly apologized. In Rwanda, it was the same thing. I think here in Cameroon, we have a program for what happened in South Africa is a form of justice. Since I wronged you, please forgive me. Please let me apologize. That is a form of justice. In Cameroon, there is some form of restorative justice going on in the form of that plan for reconstruction. I think that is a measure to restore, to
bring back better,
to bring back things to normalcy. Now that in those places where certain things can be done, reconstruction is going on, because there is some level of peace, some calm, some level of normalcy. But in those areas where we don't yet have the normalcy, certain things cannot be done. So I think, as all of us are God-fearing people, God can hear our voices, that we pray to God to touch the hearts of all of us in this country and beyond, that we should try to calm down. Calm down. I like, is it a football coach, or is it a goalkeeper? When things are hot, he says,
calm down.
Calm down.
Onana.
Onana. Let's calm down.
Yeah.
Even if for that. That's it.
Yes, thank you very much. We see all these things boiling down when people get topics like this. Like I said on the statue, people saw it and they were, Father, I have to watch this today. You know, everybody is looking forward to that day. Everybody is looking forward to that normalcy. Everybody is looking forward to, you know, that time that you could stay out there with your doors open. You could go to a corner without even thinking. You could go to Kumba and come back either it's a Monday or a Sunday or without any fright and the rest, or maybe thinking of anything on the way. So it's our wish, it's our prayer also that we put our hands on deck. We see the best we can do, our little contributions, you know, to see how we can, you know, do our best to make sure that we come back to this state of, you know, these situations that we've always had in the beginnings, where we attempt the best, I'm sure the most peaceful country maybe in the world or in Africa. People could just do what they want to, you know, without any fear of whatsoever is happening. So I think we have a responsibility, we have a duty also to do our best to look for it. Is it that we need just justice and peace now in this situation, in our families, back there in our colleges, in our communities?
Let me begin before my co-panelists come in. We don't just need justice and peace for normalcy to return. They are simply part of it.
What are other things?
We need to work. We need to work at our levels, at the level of your family. There was a time I had some neighbors, I think that was in 2018, when they saw military patrolling, a young child will enter the room and just say, Amba, doing that to provoke the men of the military officers. So if we find it in our families that there are people like that doing that, try to solve the problem at the level of the family. Let's start in our families, in our quarters, in our villages. Let everybody get engaged. Do your own little contribution to put an end. Not that you come up in public, you say something different, you go in private, you do something different. I think all of us Cameroonians, we say we are bored with that unpleasant situation.
Yeah, Mr. Bo, added to what Dr. Vinicius has said, what do you think we can put in place in order to look at our situation in Cameroon? You know, we know that justice and peace has a lot to do as far as conflict or crisis is concerned. What other things you think we could put in order so that we could maybe get to this, you know, that calmness and, you know, the normalcy again, and to enjoy all the benefits and everything that we have in our country?
No, Father, one of the programs which you had in citizenship is, which is in the syllables. Doctor is the chief there, at least he knows about that. It's about the evolution of the Cameroon constitution. There will be constitutional changes and evolution, which we see that actually, if you want to talk about the present problem in our country, it is dating as far back as the Fumban conference. And since then, there have been constant evolution. What I would just advise is that evolution has not stopped and it's still going on. We are praying, you know, for a better situation that sometimes in future, most of these issues come up, which is addressed. There was sometimes we had the post of vice president and sometimes it was removed. Sometimes they say somebody cannot hold vice president and the prime minister of West Cameroon in those days. Sometimes when there was period from Foncha, when Muna came up, it came up again. They gave and the other changes, some of those cases. So what I would say is that I was telling students in class, I say in no moment in life should you use violence to solve a situation. Yes, in no moment in life. That's what I told the students today. No moment in your life should you use violence to solve a situation. So the only situation we can advise is that let dialogue continue and let people also in their various ways try to be more friendly. We are all children of God, all of us, Muslim, Christians, traditional Africans. We are all children of God and we should look at each other as
face to face.
Yes, as a family.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boevo, and to Mr. Hamza. What do you have for the public, and what do you have your own contribution to see that maybe we'll come to normal?
Transitional justice mechanism should be put in place. Truth commission, tribunal that will look into certain issues and handle it with fairness, equity, that should prevail. And to say it all, we need to create a reparation program to navigate the delicate equilibrium by simultaneously promoting peace and justice. We don't do that, we don't have it, then we are heading to nowhere.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Hamza, and to you, Papa Fombi. What do you have to tell the public as far as this situation is concerned? Because we'll not keep our hands, folding our arms, and we just want to watch people dying and things not getting to normal. So what do you have to tell them?
Father, I hope there will be a last round.
There is I always try
And the jingle.
since I'm not an expert in these things, I always tend to analyze the words I hear. I've heard of restorative justice, which to me means restoring, giving back what the situation that was before. I don't know whether it's the same thing as normalcy, going back to where it was, and I don't see us going back to where it was, because we seem to have accepted a new normal, a new norm. Yes.
By sitting in the house on Monday.
Or by fighting.
Yeah.
Yes. And somebody made constitutional talks. They said something about constitution. The thing I know, I can talk confidently about is if I tell you that I know about water. What is the normal state of water? Is it steam? Is it water or ice? So when we're saying that we're going to we have got to the level, we were first perhaps ice, which we will call peace. Then we got to level of water. Now we are steam. Should we stay at the level of the steam and bring, because that's a normal situation in some states, in some situation it's normal. Are we going back to the level of water, or we want to freeze ourselves? So it's a difficult task. I don't know what I could say, but what I think I should say without mixing my words or mincing my words is to say that let's get to the root cause of this and point to X and Y, why you think that this is what led to this situation. Because people think that something was the cause of the situation now. Why don't we go back and look at the cause, examine whether the cause is real? If it is real, they say that the same causes leads to the same result.